Hello, and welcome to another edition of allhorsetalk.com. I'm Alita Bunny Hendricks, and I'm your host. And today's topic for allhorsetalk.com is the bran mash. What the bran mash is, it's a lovely way to provide a satisfying, nutritious treat for your horse. Okay. Before we go any further, I want to remind you that I am not a veterinarian. I'm not a horse nutritionist. What I am is a person who's been around the barns for a number of years, and I've learned from a lot of wonderful veterinarians, horse nutritionists, and other horse professionals throughout the U.S. Okay, the bran mash is not intended for a daily feed for long-term use. Reason being is that the bran, which is the hull of the wheat kernel, is very high in the mineral phosphorus. If you feed bran on a daily basis and it's out of balance with the other calcium supplements or calcium-enriched foods that you might be feeding your horse, what you will end up doing is creating a calcium deficiency in your horse, and he will pull the calcium that he needs for his body from his bones, and that's not a good thing. So do not use bran mash on a long-term basis without the advice and intervention of your veterinarian, who can then recommend a proper diet to balance that calcium and phosphorus ratio. But bran mashes do have a lot of benefits. They are easy to digest. They're made up of basically plant fiber, the hull. There's nothing that your horse has to really extract from it nutritionally. It has laxative properties, which helps keep a nice soft stool, and in the winter that can be a challenge. Sometimes horses don't drink enough water, especially in the winter, and that helps keep everything flowing in their digestive system. It adds water to the digestive system, which aids in that aforementioned process, and it can stimulate the appetite. If you've got a horse that's a little bit depressed and is getting a little bit anorexic, not wanting to eat, it can help stimulate that appetite to get him to eat. Bran mashes are useful when your horse is ill. Okay, you can feed a bran mash in lieu of a grain ration. That's the time when you don't want your horse to have many carbohydrates that can be harmful. After a very hard or exhausting work, such as 3-day eventing or fox hunting, or just a long day of showing, hard day of showing. This is for can be a weekly cleansing, especially in sandy soil. Now, we humans have gotten into the weekly colon cleansing. Horsemen have been doing it for many, many, many years, hundreds of years, I dare say, in keeping their horses' colonic health stimulated. It's good for administering short-term medication. Often the horse, if you need to give a horse a bit of bute for a day or two, you can put it in a bran mash and he'll often eat it a little more readily than just with his feed. Can be used when shipping long distances. That's especially a time when you do not want your horse's digestive system to shut down. Or he will possibly become impacted, get an impaction colic. So you can use the bran mash to help keep his digestive process working during a shipping. Long-term shipping. It's good for warming a chilled horse. I used to use it back in my days when I fox hunted in Virginia. After coming back on a very cold day, give the horse a nice warm bran mash to help ward off that chill that he was feeling. All right, let's go on to the directions for bran mash. I've got my ingredients pulled out here. Ingredients are, and I will show these after a bit again. I'm using a 3-quart can. My friend, the 3-quart can of bran. This is probably equal to about 2 pounds, a pound or 2 pounds of dry bran, probably 2 pounds, more like it. I'm going to put that in my bucket. I've prepared a bucket with a gallon of clear, cool water. I'm using cool water. Water can be used either cool or warm or hot. And I want to caution you, if you use hot water, now the hot water has benefit. It can help extract the flavors from all the other ingredients that you put into the bran mash. But if you use the hot water, you need to be careful to let that bran mash cool. If that bran mash is cool enough for you to leave your hand soaking in it for a few minutes or whatever, then it is probably cool enough for your horse to safely eat without burning him. But if it's uncomfortable for your hand, it's going to be too hot for your horse to eat. So there's our water that we'll be adding. We will be adding, I have cut up 2 medium-sized carrots and 1 kind of smallish apple, cut up into bite-sized chunks or slightly smaller. The thing with things that are juicy, if you've got them cut up into smaller than bite-sized chunks, the more surface area there is, the more ability it will have to release its flavor into what you're feeding them. You can also add things that your horse might like, such as peppermints. That was a favorite in the horse tea. Again, here are the ingredients again. Let me give that to you. I've used about 3 quarts of dry wheat bran, 3 quarts to a gallon of water, cool, warm, or hot, being sure that if it's hot, you cool it afterwards. 1 or 2 carrots cut up into bite-sized pieces, an apple cut into bite-sized pieces. You can also use up to 1/2 of your horse's regular grain ration if that's appropriate. Sometimes if your horse is ill or laid up in the stall, you do not want him to have all of those carbohydrates, those sugars, not good for him to have if his physical activity is limited. So again, if it's to feed medicine, check with your veterinarian to see what your veterinarian recommends. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put all of those dry ingredients into a pail. We're going to add the water. We're going to stir thoroughly, and we're going to feed to the horse. There's our cautionary note again about if using hot water to cool it until you can keep your hand in the mash. Right, here we go. We've got the bran in the bucket. Here goes 1/2 of a ration of sweet feed. It's a high quality sweet feed. Carrots and apples. Put everything in. And we'll add the water. Okay, I'm going to add not all of it. I'm going to stir it to see how. Okay, I'm going to add, I guess that's about 3 quarts of that gallon. 3/4 of that gallon or 3 quarts. Okay, it's got a fairly soupy consistency. The grains, some of the pelleted portion of that grain will probably absorb a little bit more of that water. I don't want that any soupier than this, otherwise it's too difficult for the horse to eat it, to chew it. So I'm going to let it sit like that, and I will sign off. I'll be right back with BJ, our test pony. We're back. Here's BJ, my equine partner, and you can see that he likes his bran mash. He's not complaining too much about volunteering to be the taste tester for all these good things to eat and drink. It's a rough job, but some horses got to do it. He's our guinea pony. Now, ordinarily, I would pour this into a regular feed size bucket for him to eat. I don't normally feed out of these buckets. These little pails are more for carrying things. But as you can see, BJ's quite happy with his bran mash. He's finding the carrot nuggets and the apples, and away he goes. And once more, this is Alita Bunny Hendricks signing off for allhorsetalk.com. And until then, happy feeding and have a great day.